Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And that's one of the main reasons why so many people struggle with anxiety, with self-doubt, with all those insecurities that are affecting their life, because they suffer more in their imagination than in reality, right? The main challenge is that when you make up stories in your mind about things that happen, or you make up stories, you make up meanings, you create interpretation about your life, the events, the people, the things that are happening, it doesn't matter whether it is factual, meaning it is real and it is tangible and it did happen and so on, or it is completely made up and hence blown out of proportion. Your mind will react to the story that you created. So you can see how easy it is to blow up something out of proportion, to make it super dramatic, and to end up paying the price emotionally, mentally, physically, right? You end up drained, you end up inhibited by all that fear, by all that anxiety, by all that social anxiety and shyness. And because of what? Because of the story you keep on telling yourself that most of the time you're not even aware, because it is so automatic, it is so unconscious, and it has been happening for so long. But even worse, then your ego take pride in the freaking story, and now you think you're right, and you feel justified in your own misery, and so you become your own, you're in your own mental jail, and you're the guardian preventing you from being free and so on. So you gotta realize that it doesn't matter what story you create in your mind, meaning what is the train of thoughts that you have regarding certain event, regarding your situation, regarding your work, regarding your health, regarding your body, regarding your relationship, regarding finances, regarding whatever the topic. It doesn't matter. The quality of the story and interpretation that you create about things that happen in your life, you will experience what you focus on and what you think about, because every thought you have, every story you tell yourself create an emotional reaction in your body. And so when you think a certain way, you feel a certain way, right? And when you feel a certain way, your attitude toward life, what you do, the decisions, the actions, and so on, everything follows suit. So it's like a domino effect. So the challenge that I see most of my clients have, the challenge that I have, the challenge that we all have, is that we need to learn how to manage what happens in our life, right? Because when things are good and we're winning and everything is easy, then it's okay, right? It's easy to be easy, it's easy to have a good day, it's easy to be on that, good flow. But when we have adversity, when things are not working out, when people are treating us a certain way, when things happen that we don't like, don't appreciate, and it's not what we want, that's when the real test is. Because if you go unconscious and if you start to create stories, let's say, you go on a date and you have a good time and you start to feel there's maybe a possibility of something, and then boom, the person disappears, ghosts you, blocks you, and you're like, wow, what happened, right? And that's when you start to make up a story. What happened is that the person maybe didn't feel the same way for whatever reason, and boom, they decided to end it. But the story that you can create is that, well, that person is this and that, and you're never gonna find the person that you want, and maybe you're ugly, or maybe something wrong with your personality, and you start to go all the way down the rabbit hole. Does that make sense? And you know exactly what I'm talking about, because we all do this, right? Something happened, but the story that we create is usually the main cause of suffering, the main cause of anxiety, the main cause of scarcity, the main cause of fear that inhibit control, affects our life. And so you could let that one day that didn't work out for you completely affect your whole week, or even longer if you don't break that attitude, right? And so there's so many of those events happen. Maybe you're at work, your boss says something, maybe your clients didn't buy something, maybe you get rejected in another place, maybe you see something on the internet that you don't like because somebody pissed you off on the internet, and you create another story and another story. And so it's drama after drama that you feed in your mind, and your attention is so focused on those things that it's magnifying every single one of those stories, and you end up, addicted to the state of mind. So we suffer more in imagination than in reality, as long as we don't take control of how we think, what we focus on, and create a conscious meaning about the event in our life. You see, reality, if we take the dating situation, reality is that you went on a date, you thought it was going well, you maybe even liked the person, and they didn't feel that way, and they blocked you, ghost you. That's the fact. What it means is entirely up for you to choose and decide. You can go as crazy dramatic and feel all the victimness and helplessness in the freaking world and put yourself in a dark corner. It's completely possible. Or you can brush it up and say, you know what? They're lost. There's a lot of fish in the sea. There's a lot of people who will value me, who will respect you, who will like me for who I am. So maybe I'm the one who dodged the bullet here. How grateful I am. You see different interpretation of the same event, but very different in terms of how you feel, what it means, your attitude, and so on. Because if it's just one event, who cares? But if you do that over and over and over and over again, you become an angry, depressed, anxious, socially miserable person. And without you realizing, you're the one who did that to yourself. Because remember, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. What you focus on expands. What you think about, you will feel. And then you will start to experience, and then you will make decisions, and your attitude will turn into, who you are. And then before you know it, your whole life is shaped by those little event after little event after little event, and all the story you made up along the way. It's defining your reality. So whether it's in dating, whether it's at work, whether it's in finance, whether it's in every different situation in your life, you have to choose to create a beautiful meaning out of every experience. And you may be like, well, pause a second, because when shit happens, and it happens, right? Are you telling me I should just not feel bad? And are you telling me I should not feel bad or this and that and never complain? And I'm not telling you anything, right? You do what you want, but I'm saying even when things are super, super bad, and it happens to all of us, and we don't like it, right? It's one thing to be angry and to be sad and so on, and to accept those emotions because they're part of life. But it's another thing to then dwell on that story and use that story and to play the victim card again and again and again, because you know that is not going to help you, it's not going to change the situation, and it's not going to serve you in any way. So by all means, always feel what you have to feel, whether it's sadness or the anger or the fear and so on, but then ask yourself, what can I do now? What is the story that is going to support me, that is going to empower me, that is going to help me, that is going to bring me out of this situation? Because if you're not able to do that, then you'll just be stuck in one of the situations that will end up facing your life, right? So yes, life can be tough, and yes, it's easier in certain situations than others, but ultimately, we are the one who can choose to make the worst thing that ever happened to me into the best thing that ever happened to me. And there is one story I absolutely love, and I always try to remember that story because I feel it's just so beautiful, right? There was this woman, she was on Facebook Live, she was like a Zumba or some instructor kind of like workout, something, right? And this was like a couple of years ago, and basically what happened is she was dancing, doing jumping jacks or whatever, and she peed herself live on Facebook Live, right? So hundreds of people watching and so on. Imagine how embarrassing, yeah? Now, the reason why this happened is because she was pregnant, she had a delivery, a baby, and so on. And then what happens, certain women experience this thing where, after delivering the baby, their pelvic floor muscle are weak. And so they just can't hold the pee kind of thing, right? So, she went to a doctor and they told her exactly what to do and how to re-strengthen all of that, blah, 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 right? But then she made a decision. What am I going to do now? Am I going to just completely disappear from my online, Zumba kind of thing? Or what am I going to do? And she had an idea. She was like, if this happened to me, to how many women does it happen as well? And she decided to create a PDF, a document, right? Detailing everything that she did and how to fix that whatever problem, whatever it's called, right? Like how to muscle your pelvic floor, whatever. And she was decided to sell it to all those women with the same problem and have no idea what to do. And in the marketing, she used that video. And the thing was like, never let that happen to you. So you see how something that was really bad happened, and she decided to turn it into something that made her over $1 million and completely changed her whole life in a very good way. And this is what I'm talking about, right? When you choose to create the story that empowers you, you never know what could happen next. But the only way you find out is if your mind is open to a possibility that every adversity brings something positive, something empowering, something that can help you, that can change your life in a better, right? And that is only possible when you start thinking greater, when you drop the old story and you start thinking greater and you open your mind. So remember, your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And that's why we suffer more in our imagination than in actual reality. Because sooner or later, your imagination becomes reality. Let me know what you think down in the comment. As always, thank you for watching these videos and hit that subscribe button.